What's up, Recovery Warriors? It's me, Lona C., founder of Hope and Recovery Network, and your host for this, the Rise Up Recovery YouTube channel. I'd like to thank you for joining me on what I like to call Self-Care Sunday. You know, that's what making these videos are for me, self-care. And so on this, video 4 of the Rise Up Recovery YouTube channel, I want to take you on my journey with me and just tell you who I am, a little bit of my foundation story, as well as let you sit in on yet another mastermind group with some of the most amazing people I have ever been blessed in my life to know. And I'm so grateful that they are a part of my team and that they allow me to be a part of theirs. But first, let me give all honor to God for my life, for my recovery, my gifts, and for all of you. And Lord, I ask that you would bless this time with friends, that you would fill me with your message. I ask that you would allow me to share it exactly the way you give it, Lord, and that you would bless the hearts and minds of those who receive it. Let it never return void, in Jesus' name. Now, let's get ready for video 4 of the Rise Up Recovery YouTube channel. Let's go. All right, here we go. Well, welcome to video 4 of the Rise Up Recovery channel. I am your host, Lona C., the founder of Hope and Recovery Network, and your host for this Rise Up Recovery YouTube channel. This, once again, is my mastermind group. This is Cheryl Groves, Big Bobby Groves, and nice Shelly Martinez, and again, I am Lona C. And so, we've got a few questions that we were talking about this evening, and one of them is honestly, who in the world am I, and why should you watch these videos, and what in the world is it all about? And so I'm going to allow my good friend Cheryl, who's got the questions all written down and everything. We're going to do a little bit of my foundation story. Then we're going to just end up with talking to the mastermind group with just a little few of the things we've been talking about today. We've spent some great time together today. It's Self-Care Sunday. You got to do whatever you got to do to make sure you're taking care of yourself, to get a good routine of self-care going. It's so important, not only in recovery, but in just life change, man. I mean, just trying to pull your life in a new direction. You better be taking care of yourself because nobody else is.
I was going to say, nobody else is going to do it.
Nobody else is going to do it. So, you know, fire away. I'm in the hot seat.
Yes.
This is the hot seat.
We compiled all these questions. And our first one was, what caused your commitment to recovery?
Okay, my commitment, because I tried many different times. I mean, over 22 years of active addiction, there's been a few attempts in there, and the final commitment came in that last relapse. It was a 9-month relapse. It was 6 years ago, and number one, I couldn't believe that I was back in that situation. And then number 2, it just became too much. I had built a little bit of trust and things in recovery. I had been in an MAT program for a while before that and was doing okay. Was doing the good MAT thing. You know, I had a job, I was holding it down, I was being a pretty decent family person. But my MAT meds came before anything, you know, so it was almost like the trade-off. But at the same time, I thought I was doing okay. Well, got to where we couldn't afford the MAT medicine anymore, and so I walked off and tried to do a step-down program on my own, and it lasted about 6 months, and then we ended up having to move in with family. It was just so much that happened. My family and I separated because, you know, both my partner and I were going through this thing at the same time. We had not learned anything about recovery. You know, we had not learned anything about being straight. We had only learned how to trade one addiction for another. And so they separated. We separated. So my family, my wife and son went back to Alabama. I was up here. I kind of dibbled and dabbled, you know, enough to get sucked in. You know, you dance with the devil, you know, eventually you're going to crawl in bed with him, and that's just that. I was hanging out with people that, you know, were actively using, you know, thinking that I was strong enough to hang out and, you know, be the role model, and eventually, you like I
got
said,
bit in the rear.
oh yeah, it happens every time.
So do you, real quick, can I
Oh,
interject?
yeah.
Because this just popped in my head. So do you think that the MAT was kind of like band-aiding something?
I do.
I mean, it got you the physical, which is important.
It did, yeah. It allowed me to have some sort of
Normalcy,
but at the same time, you couldn't really mess with that. I wasn't in the mindset to where you could mess with that too much. So, if I missed a day, prime example, it was my birthday one day, and I seemed to share birthday with MLK Day. And it didn't dawn on me that morning the clinic was going to close early. So I got there right at the very moment. I put my hand on the door just as they locked the door. And there was a lot of things that happened in that moment. Number one, I realized this is just like a dope dealer. There's no give here.
Yeah.
She's not going to open the door. Mm-mm. Even though we kind of got there at the same time, I'm not that important. And number one, that was the first thing I realized. You're not that important,
Wow.
And then I really started having a meltdown in the parking lot because I didn't think I could go that day because there wasn't any mindfulness, there wasn't any teaching on how to be clean, how to one day not be on MAT, how to one day, get your life going in certain directions. None of that was happening. It was just dispensing, and that's it.
Yep.
And they sprinkle in a little bit of counseling, but these weren't counselors that were there to make a difference. They were counselors that were there to,
to say that that's what they're offering.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And I ran into a couple because, I was trying to use, because I was supposed to be dead in all actuality. I just wasn't supposed to still be living. And so there were a couple of counselors in there that, I could talk things over with, but they still weren't giving me any kind of... It's like
direction?
if you talked about ever coming off MAT in some of those private clinics, the words you get were, well, you'll be back on the street in 6 months tops. I'll give you 6 months. I mean, these are things that I've been told many times, and so
that's not very positive.
Yeah.
it's
or
not at all.
encouraging.
It's not at all.
Yeah.
I mean, it was definitely a business model. It was a business
Yeah.
model, and I really started feeling like just a number. Just a dollar sign. Nobody really cared about me at this point. But in order for my life to run, I needed that medicine because, like I said, I wasn't growing stronger in my mind and my recovery and my heart. I was just going, okay, well, this medicine lets
Surviving.
me be... I was surviving. I was all I was doing. And I was watching so many people around me going to these same places that were still stealing. And I had been one of those people, too.
Yeah.
still stealing because you got to
Still
get your
that
money.
same
Still
mindset.
that same
Still,
mindset.
yep.
Because if you don't have your money that day,
You ain't
you
getting
don't
that.
get
You
it.
don't get it.
You know, and that's
So that's perfect segue to the second question. When did you really realize that you were actually personally committed to your recovery?
because I didn't die when I made it through that relapse, and I lived through that relapse. I finally threw my hands up and I said, I can't do this anymore. I had created a little bit, a little too much to lose, but at the same time, I was in a bad situation. We had moved back in with my mom and her husband, and I'm telling you, our lifestyle, it was just not a great situation. It really took me and my wife back to childhood. I mean, we really were having to walk around eggshells. You knew you weren't wanted, all this other stuff. And before long, I mean, we fell back into coping in the way that we knew.
Yep,
Right.
yep.
Right.
And we still had using friends, and so it was very easy to, let's try this New Hanover County heroin that everybody's going
Yeah,
stupid
yeah.
about. And so, I had been away from heroin for 15 years at that point. It had been MAT or pills, or, it had not been heroin. So when we stepped back into the heroin game, it was more than a full-time job. It was just ludicrous. The minute amount of heroin that was coming in these bags and how much money you could spend in a day. I mean, it was just ridiculous. And I just started seeing our son was turning into a teenager. He didn't see us using, but at the same time, the stress of us leaving at all different times of the night.
Yep.
We're just running to the store and we'd be gone for 4 hours.
Yep.
You know, all of that, you know, was really getting to him, and he started developing the Cushing's disease, gained 100 pounds. But I knew the only way that I was going to first be able to get a handle on my mind was to go back to MAT. But what I decided at that time was, number one, I'm going to pick a program that has a program to work. And number two, and I picked the place that everybody in town said, don't go there, they're strict. That was where I went.
Yep.
I went to the one that was going to require the most out of me.
Yep.
And I said, let me get my body, because I've been through a lot of body trauma. So I know I've had 12 stomach surgeries, like my guts are so rearranged, it's almost like a 3-year-old's put them all back together. This looks like it works.
Operation.
Yep, here it is. But so I knew that I knew that if I could get my body under control, that I would work on my mind, and that was my commitment. And so I did. I got in that program, and that's what it was. It was a change your life program. It wasn't just a trade drug for drug. It was a change your life program. There were rules, there were regulations, you were accountable.
Yep.
And 30 days in doing good, 60 days in doing great, 90 days in doing great. And then I realized they had a housing program. It was the first time that I had actually started speaking, because somewhere in those 3 months I had made a relationship with God.
Yeah.
In which I did not have before. And so I started studying the laws of the universe. Then I started realizing, wait a minute, this all kind of comes together. So I started really doing those 12 laws of the universe, started kind of changing my attitudes, changing my behaviors, changing my reactions, and really knew that I was going to be committed to this change because my son deserved better from me. Like, I wanted to break that generational thing, because all I could think of is, this kid is now going to watch us do this.
Yep.
And then for every parent, if they don't, they should, but I think we'll all agree, you always want your kids to have better than you.
Yes.
That's just a natural thing, I believe.
Yep.
And so I thought to myself, if I don't do better for him, he's never going to have better than me, because he's going to somehow think this is normal.
This
Right.
is normal.
Right.
And so that was the drive. That was who, it was him that got me up every morning.
That was your one thing.
That was my one thing. That was him. That was my one thing, was that he deserved better from me. And that, I had survived through all this. I had survived 7 near-death experiences. I had survived too much. And so I said, I'm willing to go all in with this, with you, God, but we're going to have to do this on a different level. I can't do this underneath the pew of a church. This is not going to be, that's not going to be the way in this area. We were way out in Bolivia, North Carolina. There weren't a bunch of progressive churches interested in bringing us in, to love us and to teach us and to grow us. It wasn't like that. So, I said, help me do this. And so within those 3 months, all of a sudden this program had a housing program. We were in an apartment now in which we had not had our own place.
And it offered some
2 years.
stability.
Offered stability, gave us almost a hammock, so to speak, to say, here's how you start learning to pay bills, and here's how you're accountable. Because there was many days during that I didn't want to be clean, and I didn't even know if I could do this anymore. But every time my son walked up the stairs and went into his own bedroom, laid down in his own bed, and different things, because I was still living mindset like an addict. Wouldn't open the mail, was still living chaotically, couldn't pay the bills, didn't know how to do all that, because I'd never done all that. I'd been an addict since I was 11 years old. I didn't know how to pay bills on a regular basis, and
be responsible.
I didn't know.
Right.
And I accredit that housing program and those strict rules, because there was a moment in there, and it was actually 7 years ago, not 6. I have 6 years clean time, because once we got in that housing program, I fell back a little bit because I didn't know how to cope with my own self-sabotage, if it makes sense.
Yes.
I was self-sabotaging myself
Yep.
by not opening the mail, and then all of a sudden the wolf's at the door cutting your water off.
And you're
then
overwhelmed.
you jump, then you jump
Yep.
into action, because
Yep.
that's what we do.
Right.
Now we can figure it out.
You wait till the 11th hour.
Yeah, exactly. The
Yeah.
11th and a half
Yeah.
hour.
And
you know?
59
Yeah.
seconds.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
And and during that, I ended up falling back, and started smoking weed, and I, would take benzos. I did those same little things that I knew to do, because I was at the end of
cope.
my rope.
Yeah.
To cope. And then I had to sit there with myself, and I said to myself, this is my castle, and I have no peace here. I don't like to open the door. I don't like to answer the door. I don't like to answer the phone. I dang sure don't like to go to the mailbox. Now what?
You're still a prisoner.
I'm still a prisoner. So what's blocking me? Your addiction is what's blocking you. Because whether it's weed for me,
Yep.
whether it's pills
Yep.
for me, whether it's heroin,
Yep.
whether it's meth, whether it's coke, whatever it is,
I can't. Yeah. You just
I'm
can't do it.
running it.
Yep. Yep.
And
You
it-
take it to the extreme.
Absolutely. And it was that last $10 bag of weed that I dumped out on a plate, and I had that conversation with my son, this imaginary conversation where I went to him and I said, look, I've done my best. I've gotten us this apartment, and I've done all of this stuff for our family. I've done my best. But this, and I had it on a plate,
Yeah.
this is just more powerful to me than my love for you or your love for me. It's more powerful to me. And so I'm going to do this. We're going to lose our house, and we'll probably get to stay here about 2 more months, and then
Yeah.
we're going to have to go to the shelter. You'll probably go and live with my mom and them, which is awful, because at that time they had not grown as far as they are now. And we were thinking, you're going to be raised up in a legalistic church that's going to teach you that your parents are terrible, and you're a victim, and all this stuff. And basically that was the conversation I had with him in my head. And it was at that moment that I said, I am bigger than this. And if I'm not,
Wow.
until I am, I know God's here to strengthen me to be bigger than this. And that was it. That was it.
Wow.
That was it.
Okay, so this was the big question. Why do you feel the need to continue to share?
Well, because going through just what we talked about just there doesn't even scratch the surface of how my life began, how I started up under abuse and terrible things that shouldn't happen to children ever, and how it just seemed to keep going in my life, and how I prayed for death probably every day for the last 15 of those 22 years. Just prayed for death at every moment. I felt trapped in even a body that was not my own. Like, I never felt free, ever. And for me to be able to grow past a lot of this stuff, to be able to have a life where my mind is better, my heart is good,
Yeah.
like I got a lot of freedom and insight. It's almost like I feel God said, I saved you for such a time as this. And now let's use all that the enemy meant for your harm as something to help. Because God knows, who would have said 10 years ago that we were going to have an opioid epidemic
Yeah.
sweep our country and affect my life in such a way, even my wife's life, because it wasn't like she, the opiates came with me, for her. Like, she had her own addiction issues at that time, but the opiates came with me. And you think back to yourself and you think, how could you take someone you love so much, introduce them to something that's so evil?
Yeah.
Because, opiates are evil. They're just evil. I think all addiction is, but opiates are evil. So who would have known that someday all of that trash and garbage and pain and suffering that God lifted me out of. And it wasn't like he reached down and just pulled me up.
No, it's a process.
No, it was a slow lifting,
Yep.
where he allowed me to, in every stage, get my legs strong to stand under me.
Yep.
And it's a constant passion and a call that wakes me up every morning, that drives me through every single day,
Yep.
that causes me to push through and use every message that he gives to me to try to share out to each and every person, whether a million people hear it or one person hears it.
Yep.
That's what it's about, sowing into the life of another person.
Yep, it is. Now, the big question is how?
Okay.
How do you remain committed to successful recovery? Not just recovery, but successful. Because you are successful.
Yeah, I believe that to this day.
You are a real success story of
Thank you.
recovery and how it works. I
Thank
mean, I've been doing this a long time, and I see people that kind of falter and flounder through, and it takes, a long time, and, and I don't like to have people compare to other people, but you are really a success story. So how do you
Thank you.
do this every day?
I when I really got into this and really decided into that, I was white knuckling through a whole bunch of it, because at the time during MAT, I wasn't really welcomed in the 12-step rooms. I have nothing against 12-step. I think it's a beautiful thing that helps millions of people every day. I love it. But it wasn't where I had felt openly invited, and there wasn't a lot out there for me. So I really started just kind of white knuckling, and I started thinking to myself, how can I make this easier? And through learning all this, how can I make it easier for other people? And I really just started adopting strategies. Like the day I was telling you, I sat down with myself and said, okay, what's blocking my peace? What's blocking me from being the king of my castle and it being my sanctuary away from the world? And the thing that was blocking me was my old addicted behavior.
Yep.
My inability to deal with life on life's terms. And I had to realize that it wasn't going to kill me to do that. See, in active addiction, we think our feelings are just going to kill us.
Yeah.
We're just going to die.
Feelings,
And, blah, 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 blah. But we realized that we weren't. And I realized, oh my gosh, I'm not going to die. I might be miserable for a little while, but I'm not going to die through this. I can get through this. So I started creating strategies for myself. A battle plan is what I like to call it. How am I going to drive to work different today? Because I can't keep putting myself in harm's way and then get mad at harm when it harms me.
Right.
It just was, it was stinking thinking. It was that old addict thinking, and I had to start realizing, where am I self-sabotaging? And I didn't really know at the time, when God was bringing all that to me, I didn't know that one day it would be to share with other people.
Yeah.
Because that's really the point, is to try to give people strategies and blueprints, and because you've got to make your life work where it is.
Yep.
You can't just pick up and remove yourself. That's what drugs did for us.
Yeah,
It allowed us to push the button and escape from our
Pause button.
feelings. Yeah.
Pause button.
The pause button. It's what it allowed us to do. But what we realized is that when we came to, every bit of that junk was right there ready to bowl us over.
Times
I was going to say, and
1,000.
multiply.
Exactly. Because now you've hurt people. Now you've,
The guilt, everything.
And all the shame. I just got tired of feeling like that. And I said to myself, I'm not going to be clean, sober, and miserable.
Yeah.
So whatever I got to do to figure out how to do this thing, do it well, be happy, grow, I'm just going to do it. And so I really started diving in to do that. And so I really give my recovery success to my commitment of being absolutely, positively bent on finding out what my full purpose is. Because when you are and I believe that the ones that lose their life in this battle, they have a destiny too. Like, I believe that they have a story too. Like, I know it's hard to lose someone, but when you share that, then the enemy doesn't win. He doesn't win. And I think that's what it's really, really about. We stamp this thing out with love
Yep.
and loud love.
Yes.
Yep.
Loud love.
Crazy love.
Crazy love.
Yep.
I love it.
Me too.
It's that's what recovery is love.
And see, with me, that's kind of how I started. I was like, my grandmom always said, love covers a multitude of sins.
Yeah.
So, and God, I'm going years and years back when, like I said, there was nothing here. What am I supposed to do, God? Love.
Yeah.
Okay. So I just love people. It's just that simple.
And
Just share some love and compassion and hope.
You're one of the best at what you do too, as well. Because I'm telling you, people
don't know about that, but-
well, people don't understand and realize that if they're in active addiction, there's not too many people that will come where they are
Yeah.
and pull them from where they are willingly.
But
And
no
unwillingly.
judgment,
Yeah,
yeah.
no judgment. Like, there's no judgment. That's hard to find in a person because
Yeah.
sometimes I even get aggravated. I
Yeah,
get
yeah,
aggravated
yeah.
with addicts that
I do
want to
too.
keep beating the same thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And don't want to catch on to that. But you've been blessed with a patience that kind of says, look, I'll love you back. You know,
Yep.
I'll do what it takes. You tell me you're ready, I'm going to trust you say you're ready, and I'm going to go all in with you.
Yep.
Yep.
And I go out.
I know. And sometimes you get burned, you know,
Yeah, I
you've been
do.
burned a lot as well.
Yep. And I
So-
get tired.
Yeah,
You know, I'm human.
absolutely.
Disappointed.
Absolutely.
Sometimes, you know, it hurts.
Burnout.
Burnout. Yeah. You know, sometimes I got to check out. And, you know, I feel like sometimes I'm a disappointment to people,
Nope.
but I'm human.
Yep.
And, you know, I invest so much of myself and my emotions,
Mm-hmm.
you know, which I try to keep guarded, but sometimes, you know,
You
you can't.
You can't.
Because
This is a
God
love
told
walk.
me love completely with all abandonment. And when you do that, you risk for a little heartbreak
do.
once in a while.
You absolutely do.
That's right.
You know, and
absolutely
Lona truly is you know, iron sharpeneth iron. I mean, you know, I feel truly blessed and honored to have Lona, you know, in my life. You know, I can call, I could text and go, I'm struggling today, I'm having a bad day, and you know, she's there for me because we all need somebody.
We got to. If we don't start, and that's one of the biggest things. If we don't start surrounding ourselves with people that are going in our same direction,
Yep.
people who are where we want to go,
Yep.
and if we don't find real, legitimate, like passionate people, because there is a lot of imitation out here right now.
Yes.
A
It's
lot
crazy.
of imitation.
Yep.
And so it's about and I think we even talked about this in a live a few nights or days ago about being very particular
Yeah.
about who you let around you in new recovery,
Yes.
because you
It's
got
the same
to.
as like in business. You know, if you want to be successful, you go to those people who have been successful.
Absolutely.
And you get closer to them and
Yep.
get
Yep.
glean information what
Yep.
they. So same thing with recovery. You want to be to those near those people that have been successful in
Yep.
recovery,
Yep.
and you know learn and just follow the steps that they took.
Absolutely.
You know,
Yep.
to get there.
Absolutely.
And paying attention to people that are offering real tools.
Yes.
Not just
Yeah.
chitter chatter,
Right.
but tools. People, you know, like Lona that's saying, here's the blueprint. This is what you need to do.
Yeah.
You know, people that have been in that lost, dismal, dark, I called it the wilderness for
That's-
me.
yeah.
I was just wandering around, you know, with no end in sight. And back then there was nothing here. I had now previously I had some Al-Anon skills from years ago, and I was able to kind of at least grab a compass and a flashlight,
Yeah.
so to speak,
Yeah.
just to kind of
Yeah.
gauge my
It's
direction.
something, yeah. Yeah.
And I was very blessed with a pastor at the time who, his family had been affected, so he offered a lot, you know, in the way of encouraging me and giving me some tools too to cope with the things that I was dealing with at the time. But it's important. I you know, there's
It's important.
it's crucial.
Yeah.
It's crucial to me. It's critical.
Yeah.
You got to surround yourself with people on the winning team.
Well, this is a life or death situation.
Yes,
It's
it is.
not something that you can just play around
Dabble
with. People
with,
are
yep.
dying out here right now. This is not the same heroin that was here 3
60s.
years ago. Yeah, you know, anytime this is something new, and this is life or death. And if you don't surround yourself, I mean, you wouldn't jump in the ocean with floats that you knew had a hole in them. You
Yeah,
know,
right.
even if it's a small, slow leak.
Yeah.
Eventually you're going to drown.
Yep.
And if you're hanging on to people that are barely hanging on themselves, then where do you think you're going to go? I mean, do you get surprised when you find yourself back down where you were? And so it's a business, you know, it's the same like Bob was saying in business, it's the same in recovery, it's the same in life. I mean, people that are successful and have a true passion for it do not mind you asking questions. They don't mind you copying their blueprint. I'll give you every notebook, I'll make everything that's why I always say whatever I write, whatever I speak, you can share it, you can speak it. Sounds like we're in the danger zone, doesn't it?
Hit the floor. Yeah.
Well,
Little fireworks. Happy Memorial Day.
yeah. But so that's just where we are. We're gonna kind of wrap it on up right there. But the serious thing is you wouldn't hand your life to just anybody. You wouldn't,
Or your loved ones.
or your loved ones. It's the truth.
Be careful.
Please be careful. Please be so
I
careful.
wanted to just add a little something
Please
because you were
do.
talking about sort of like the process of coming into recovery, and you know, and for everybody it takes it's different.
Yeah.
You know, your recovery time is different, and some people are coming from different aspects and different depths of the addiction. You know,
Absolutely.
so it's kind of like I kind of compare it to people that are deep sea diving, right? You know, you got to come up out of that water at a certain pace,
Yeah.
or you go get the bends,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that stuff will
Yeah.
kill you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you know, you got to pace yourself coming up out of
true.
That's
of
a
the
good
water,
analogy.
That's a good analogy.
Good word,
and
Bob.
until you hit the surface,
Good word.
and that surface is, you know, what you're looking to get to, because
Yeah.
you get that breath of fresh air for the first time, you know. But so you want to, everybody, you know, we all come at different depths of addiction. So some might be way down.
Yeah.
Some, you know, so I can only compare it because back when I was younger, you know, I smoked dope, partied, whatever,
Mhm.
and it was a part of a staple of my life. And
Weed. Dope.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Weed.
That's what some of us older folks
yeah.
call
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're dating ourselves.
Yeah.
Nobody else would date me, so I gotta date myself.
I got you, Bob.
So, so you know, we come from different, and that was like easier for me to come out of that. So I guess maybe my addiction was maybe a little more shallower
Yeah.
of an addiction compared to some others. So it wasn't like all encompassing or whatever. So, you know, we all come from different areas, so that's
So
how we
true.
deal with each other differently.
So
And
true.
you know, God opened my eyes to a lot of things and helped me to have a heart for the people that have the addictions. And
That's
and
so true.
so I think that's even those who think they don't have an addiction or have don't or out of addiction. Yeah, we kind of just got to realize we all come from different depths of the
Levels.
addiction.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
be patient, long suffering, because you know sometimes they relapse, sometimes they fall back into it, and we just got to bear with it and celebrate life.
So, there we go.
Well,
Look at that segue.
Yes.
and on that.
And that's it.
Well, thanks for that
Yeah.
word, Bob, because it really
Yeah.
does mean a lot, man. And because, you know, we're all in different places here, you know.
Yeah. Yep.
This is a couple, you know, a family that really went from, you know, having an addicted family member to how can I help the rest of the world at this point. Jeez. And then, you know, we've got Shell who's in celebrating her 60 days in recovery. Good for Shell.
And I just wanted to say how lucky am I to be in early recovery and have surrounded by this.
How
You know?
awesome for you to say that.
I'm so blessed to have you guys in my
That's
life.
We feel blessed
awesome.
because we know
So blessed.
we know you got something big ahead of you.
Yep. And all of you do. That's
Yes.
what we
Yep,
need
yep,
you to
yep.
realize is that you have not been attacked by addiction for no
For no
reason.
reason.
Right.
I mean, you are highly called, highly purposed,
Yes.
and the moment that you grab a hold of that and want to understand that you are worthy and that you have a destiny and you haven't ruined it,
Yes. Every single one of you.
every one of them. So at that point, we're gonna let the fireworks lead us out
That's right.
of the Rise Up Recovery YouTube channel. But we thank you so much for spending this time with us. It's going to
right.
be an amazing, amazing, amazing time. Guys, join us live on Facebook. You got us at Broken Horse Inc. You got us at Hope and Recovery Network group page. You got us on Lona Curry. Is my personal page where I do lives. Look, you got a lot of lives that go on Broken Horse. There's a lot of good stuff going on here. We're passionate, sincere people.
Yes.
This is the best group of people I've probably ever known in my life, and I'm grateful to be a part of this too. So have a great weekend, rest of the weekend,
Be
Memorial Day.
safe.
Be safe. Love you.
Love
Thank
you
you.
guys.
Y'all keep words.